4th of January, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos.
What's the protocol now? You have to
Anybody
wait
over 4 months, 4 months after the third booster.
4 months. Okay.
Good morning, Rabbi Furst.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Barry. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, Lou.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Liza.
Good morning, everybody.
Okay, here we are at the Yeshivat Nafshi here in Shalim. We are in our first year, Pierke Avos. We'll be reviewing the Maharal Prague, as his explanation was worthy of another look. I'll put it on screen as well. You have it there in your document, and I believe it's the third full paragraph there. Der Chaim, that's the Maharal Prague's explanation of the Maimer of Rabbi Akiva. As Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Akiva Omer Spokatos Rost Margilin Le'erva. That jesting and levity bring a person to licitiousness. And okay, anyone would like to begin reading for us?
I thought you were going to do a review, Rabbi.
Excuse me, I didn't hear you. You were breaking up. I didn't hear you, Lou.
I thought we said yesterday you were going to do a review of the last two paragraphs.
Yeah, I think let's read it. Let's read it inside, okay? The Maharal, we have three paragraphs here. The first paragraph was a proof that that schok is relevant to and synonymous with erva, right? And even in the context of a mitzvah, right? There has to be a certain amount of levity for marital relations to take place, right? That the necessity of let's put it this way, of a lack of seriousness is part of the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the Maisa of Tashmish marital relations to take place. So it's synonymous. That was the first paragraph. He brought proofs from the psukim by Avimelech that he saw Yitzchak. He was a Masakik with Rivka, and obviously whatever they were doing on the most highest levels of righteousness and sanctity. But nevertheless, the Torah defines that as a situation of schok, of levity, and as I told you, the Baal Tshuva, I told you yesterday and the day before that, the Baal Tshuva, he was taught that his marriage classes, that before being intimate with his wife, he should set the tone by saying a joke, right? So that's part of what we're learning here, that there's a certain levity, lightheadedness, lack of seriousness that needs to take place for the marital relationships to take place. And the next two paragraphs, I mean the last two paragraphs, which we'll see inside, these are the explanations why that's necessary. So we can start again with what says that paragraph starting Yesh lach ladas. There is for you to know. Both.
Okay, I'll read.
Okay, thank you.
Yesh lach ladas od, and there is for you to learn to know further.
Good.
Haschoch the kalos rosh margilin es haadam la arva.
The erva.
How levity and lightheadedness accustom a person to lewdness.
Right, what's the process by this, by where this exists?
Mizeh ki ha'erva hu salok Hashem. This is because lewdness removes Hashem, min ha'adam, from a person.
Right. They really can't, they can't exist in the same situation.
Now, when we say erva here, are we including proper marital relations?
Oh,
Or
so-
we're just talking about improper lewdness?
Right, so that's, we're gonna see a little bit of that soon. But that's the next step, because as I mentioned, there's a Chazal, a Gemara Nida, I think Kedushin also, that there are Shlosha Shukrim Ba'adim. There are 3 partners involved in the creation of a person. The Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the man and the wife. Right? So Chazal is clearly saying that the Kadosh Baruch Hu has something very essential to do with the creation of a person. Right?
Right?
So after we've done with this, we're gonna take a look at those Chazals, and we'll see if we can't get an explanation of how both of these statements are compatible with each other. So
Okay.
we'll be getting to that. So hold on to that question. Hopefully, if not today, I don't think we'll properly answer it today, but start maybe to answer it tomorrow, I hope. That's what it should.
ודבר זה תראה כי המעשה הזה אף כאשר אינו באבדה,
Avera.
כסיב. And in this matter, we see, because this action,
The word key.
when
the
it's
word-
not an Avera,
The word key is referring to when. He's actually addressing your questions, Lou. The word key is when. You should see, this thing will be seen to be in effect, key also when, even when the mice is not done in an Avera. It's not an Avera which is taking place.
right? Kasiv, as it is written, v'lo yireh v'cha aros arvos ervas devar, and it is written, there should not be seen in you a lewd thing. Vishav me'acharich me'acharecha, that you should keep it far away from you. Hashem, far away from Hashem.
No, and Hashem will be, because Hashem will distance himself far from you. This is the plus. These are the psukim in Devarim when Klal Yisrael was set out, commanded to go to war. So part of the commands of the army that they should be very far, keep themselves very far from an Erev Dover. Because if not, that's going to cause Shav Me'achrecha Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to distance himself from the army.
Umikol shekain kasher hu davar erva shel avera, and even more so when it is a a matter that is lewd through sinning, legamre, completely, shehu salok hashchina, that removes the shchina,
Right,
the
so,
divine presence.
right, so the Maharal is explaining here that the actual essence of the of the marital act, whether it's in the context of marriage and with kedusha and tahar, with sanctity and holiness, and the context of a mitzvah, or whether it's going to be in the context of an avera, the actual situation calls for the fact that so to speak, the Shekhinah can't really be there, because in essence it's something which is somewhat opposite to the kedusha and the holiness of the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking that in these last two sentences, it mentions transgressions, averas,
Right.
several times. I was thinking that it's saying that only when it's an avera does it remove the shechina.
Well, that's the kol shekin. The kol shekin again. It starts here. Davar zeh tireh. This thing should be seen. I mean, realized. Davar zeh tireh. This thing should be realized. Kia ma'isa hazeh. This act, because when this act, even when it's not an avera, right? There's still what we call a siluk HaKadosh Baruch Hu min ha'adam. There's a siluk. There's a removal of a Kadosh Baruch Hu from the person. Okay, and then it's going to be kol shekin when it's a davar avera. The gamri huskila kashkina. Kol shekin, and we kol shekin kashehu davar avera, davar erva shel avera legamri huskila kashkina. Kol shekin even more so when it's going to be a davar avera, erva, which is an avera sin. Legamri is completely sila kashkina. It's a complete removal of the shkina.
I see. Okay. Ki hu ma'aseh chamrei she'ein kedushaso. When it is a physical act without holiness, Yisbarach Sham, without the holiness of Hashem being there.
Right, because that's when it's a complete avera, right? It's a ma'aseh chamri. It's a complete. It's a physical act, and there's no holiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu there. Meaning, we're gonna have to come back and understand that when it's done in the context of mitzvah, a husband and a wife, right? When a husband and wife are having marital relations, so then it's still a physical act, but we could say it's not a complete removal of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when it's done, it is simply because as an avera, then there's no presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu there at all, obviously.
But it seems to be a contradiction, because first we said that there's no place for Hashem, even if it's not an avera. There's no place for the Shechina in the act, and even more so if it's an avera. Now we're saying if it's done without the holiness of Hashem, but it has to be without the holiness of Hashem. We just said it can't be with Hashem. So what does it mean to say if it's done without the kedusha of Hashem?
Well, because that's when it's an avera. Right? I mean, erva, which is lasciviousness, lewdness, right? That's something which is an avera, and there's obviously no presence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu involved with that. But even in the context of a mitzvah, there's still a removal. How much of a removal exactly we haven't come to terms with exactly what's happening there when it's done in the context of a mitzvah. But there's still, since the fact is it's whatever you want to call it, in essence, it's a physical act. There is a removal to some extent or other of a Kadosh Baruch Hu's presence, so to speak.
Ki kedush as Hashem yisbarach u'maaseh zeh heim hafkim
Hafukim, the opposites.
hapuchim, the opposite. Okay, so when the holiness of Hashem and this action, it is the opposite.
Right. Ki kedushas Hashem yisbarach, the holiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and ma'aseh and this behavior, heim hafukim legamri, the complete opposites. Why? Because hu yisbarach kadosh, u'ma'aseh hu behemi chamri. Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu is kadosh, is holy, right? And ma'aseh, in this act, it's a beastly physical act.
Okay, I'm kind of drowning in the logic here.
Okay,
Because Hashem, because ki kedushas Hashem, how do you translate ki in that case?
because
the holiness of Hashem and this action are the opposite completely.
complete opposites.
Are the complete opposite because
Yeah, just you laid that word.
he who is blessed
I'll do that myself.
because he blesses the holiness of the act.
No, he kedushas Hashem is barak. See, because the holiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, u'ma'aseh zeh, and this act, heim hafuchim legamri, they're complete opposites. They're complete opposites. The Kadosh Baruch Hu is completely non-physical, completely Kadosh, removed from anything physical. And this act is
Hashem is the opposite of the act.
right.
I get it. Okay. Because he is blessed. I'm sorry. Because who yisbarach kadosh. What does that phrase mean? Yisbarach kadosh.
He who is barak, because he, the blessed one, is kadosh, is holy. Because
And,
he,
and
the
this
Holy One-
action is a beastly physical action.
right. So they're complete opposites.
Okay. Kimo,
Why Kadosh Baruch Hu could have made like fish, right, Barry?
Yes.
Could have made like fish that the mother fish puts her eggs down in the sand, and the male fish comes and does what he does, and they never get together. Right? Life was easy.
so that would be better.
It wouldn't be so physical. It wouldn't be so completely opposite to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Look, you have the birds and the bees, right? You have the bees. The bees go from one flower, get the pollen, go to another flower, get the other, and do that what they do there. Right? Very, very holy thing that the bees are doing, no?
But then it doesn't it come down to that it comes down to procreation. In other words, when a man and a woman are supposed to come together, that's with the idea of procreation.
Yes,
It's not,
of course.
they're not having a party.
Right, that's right, for sure.
I mean,
That's right.
that's basically what it is.
Right, but even in that case, the actual act is still going to be something which is completely removed from the holiness of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right?
Well, that's what I have a problem with. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world where men and women have this physical relationship, then that's what Hashem wants. So
Right.
why is he removed from it? Hashem is everywhere. He's given us this whatever what he gave us is different than what he gave the fish.
Right.
So if you have in mind the correct thing, then isn't it holy? Isn't it kadosh? Isn't it kadosh?
Oh, that's what we have to ultimately answer. That is one of the essential questions here. Meaning, if Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to be holy people, right? Wouldn't it have been better if if we were like fish, that we'd have a little basin there somewhere in the house, and then the wife would deposit her eggs in that basin, and then you'd come along and deposit your eggs in there, and then the babies would come out, right? So everyone could be holy, right? You didn't have to get involved with with all kinds of physical interactions between a husband and a wife. Wouldn't that be much better for holy people to be holy that way?
No,
Obviously not. Obviously not.
Not.
So the question is why?
Because that's what Hashem wants.
I know, but he wants the fish to be like the fish do it their way, right?
Yeah, well, we're not fish.
I would say that there is an aspect of sharing mutual physical pleasure in a marriage that enhances the marriage, enhances the relationship. If it's done properly, we talked about the proper environment that, you tell a joke to start off, and somebody said earlier, it's not a party. I would say the opposite. It is a party. You're getting together with your wife, and you're the two of you are happy, and you're joking and having a good time, and that's enhancing your relationship. And I think it even says in the Gemara that the quality of the children is related to the quality of the relations.
Right. But
Rabbi, I was at a chasana a few nights ago, and they read the Kesubah.
yeah, go ahead, Reverend. I'm listening. Go ahead.
And part of the Kesubah says a man has to provide for his wife clothing, food, and has to take care of her physical needs. So if it's at the most important time in a life, in a marriage under the chuppah, so they say in every marriage, there's a husband and a wife and the Rebbeinu Shalom. So I can't see how we could say living together is an avera. I don't understand that.
Right.
Stay away.
We didn't say it's an avera. We said it's distances us from Hashem. We said if it's an avera, it's worse. But even if it's not an avera, it distances us.
Yeah. How's it? I thought it brings us closer to Hashem. That's, as you just said, when you have a
Exactly.
positive relationship and you have positive kids and B'nai Torah, so Hashem is happy with you.
Exactly.
Hashem-
Hashem is everywhere. So anything.
Hashchina Shura B'Simcha. Hashem is happy when you're happy.
right?
That's what I understand it.
So we all agree about this. These are things we've been taught, we understand, and we all agree on. But the question is, we have to try to understand what the morale is saying, because the actual act is opposite to that of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's, again, those last two lines of that second paragraph. Ki kedushas Hashem yisbarach u'ma'ases zehem hafchim. Legamri. The holiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu and this act of marital relations, even under the best conditions, are completely opposite. They're completely opposite. Why?
Because it was the
Because-
Maharal married?
Yeah, you know what happened? You know what the Maharal, you know the story about the Maharal?
No. Please tell me.
I'll tell you. The Maharal was learning because he was a bacher. I don't know exactly how old he was, 18, 19 years old, 20. I'm not sure exactly. He was a bacher in yeshiva learning. And a shidduch was made with a very, very wealthy family. The daughter was married, came from a very wealthy family. And of course, they were the Maharal obviously was a very outstanding Talmud and worthy of having a family support him in his learning, right? And shortly after the engagement, the family went bankrupt, completely bankrupt, and it was impossible for them to keep their financial obligations to the wedding. So the potential father-in-law spoke to the Maharal, and he said, because he now can no longer keep his financial obligations, he's freeing the Maharal from his obligations to marry his daughter, and the Maharal is free to seek another shidduch, and the wedding's off, the engagement's off. So the Maharal said he's not masking. He doesn't agree. He said, this is the woman that Kadosh Baruch Hu decreed for me to be my wife, right? So we'll just wait until the time comes that you'll be able to support me and the family, and in the meantime, you'll continue learning. We'll continue learning. So the potential father-in-law was agreeable to that, and since he was a smart businessman, he started to rebuild himself. And it took, I'm not sure how long it took, but it took a certain amount of time, and the father-in-law rebuilt himself financially. He was able to meet the financial obligations, and eventually he and his wife got married. But he was not willing to ruin the marriage because of financial considerations. Yeah.
Very nice.
So, okay. Yeah. So that's what we have to try and understand. That's the essential question here. Meaning, Kadosh Baruch Hu made it right. That again, we could have been like flowers. We could have been like fish, right? Everyone just sits there, and the husband and wife throw their pollen at each other and stuff like that, whatever it's going to be. But Kadosh Baruch Hu had better ideas, right? Had much better ideas. He had better ideas for the flowers. The flowers are supposed to do it their way. Fish is supposed to do it their way, right? People are supposed to do it their way. But nevertheless, the actual act, when you analyze the actual act, it's being such a physical act, which is contradictory to the holiness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So how do we come to terms with that's the way a Kadosh Baruch Hu deemed fit that we bring life into this world. So we'll continue. We'll see what the morale has to say about the next paragraph, and then by tomorrow, hopefully, we'll have more explanations about exactly this act of cohabitation and the kedusha of a Kadosh Baruch. But at this point, we're just understanding why schok and kalas rosh, why jesting and levity bring a person to error, will bring a person to a situation where there'll be physical relationships, whether they're permissible or whether they're in sin. Let's continue.
So just to review, I'm just reviewing the whole paragraph.
Sure.
And trying to relate the beginning to the end. The beginning seems to be saying that it's important to know the relationship between levity and lightheadedness and erva, lewdness.
Right.
But then it seems to switch gears, and the rest of the paragraph seems to be saying basically that there's a disconnect between Hashem's holiness and the physical nature of the act.
Right.
What is the, or it seems like it's a disconnect. How do we relate that back to the kalas rosh and the schok?
Because if you going back to the first paragraph, remember that the Maharal brought the proof that schok, the actual reference to marital relations is referred to by the Torah itself as schok, as jesting. That was the case with Yitzhak and Rivka, right? Yitzhak and Rivka, they were jesting together, right?
Right.
So on one hand, you have that the schok and kalas rosh will bring a person to erva, meaning it could even bring a person to do averas, to do it in a sinful way. And yet at the same time, it's necessary for the actual relations between a husband and wife, even on the highest madrega, like Yitzhak and Rivka were doing it.
Okay, but that makes me think. I mean, when it says beastly physical, but behema hami chamri. So that makes me think about chas v'shalom when it's forced. You don't have levity. You don't have lightheadedness in that environment. It's very serious. That's when, to me, it's a beastly act.
He's taking a look at exactly what's going on. Right? It's you know, if you look at it from a physical point of view, there's no difference between a husband and wife and two dogs. It's basically the same thing. That's the essence of the act. The essence of the act is that's what it is.
Does the halacha require the woman has to give her agreements?
Sure, of course. Of course.
I can't understand this comparison to two dogs, I would say lahabdil. I don't think it's proper.
When you take a look at the physical act which is taking place, physically, it's basically the same thing.
That's very interesting.
I'm just trying to give us some insight into what the morals is. He's dealing with a tremendous question over here. There's a tremendous question that's developing over here. I mean, we all understand what the tremendous question that we're trying to deal with over here.
There's a physical relationship that's taking place, and yet at the same point, there needs to be a level of kedusha infused in it to make it a holy act. And how do you tie the base physical nature and the spiritual nature together to make a unified act, a unified action that is imbued with holiness?
Exactly. And at the same time, we have to try and understand if the Torah itself is referring to the act as being skok, right? And skok, leaving even aside the physical aspects of the whole thing, but skok itself, right? Skok itself is, if you look at Hilchos Beis Knesset, right? You look at the Hilchos Beis Knesset. You can't be noig kalas rosh of the Beis Knesset. When you look at Hilchos Kriyas Shema, you can't be saying Kriyas Shema with lightheadedness. When you look at Hilchos Shmona Esrei, right? It's also to daven Shmona Esrei betok skok the kalas rosh. You can't do it in a jesting and lightheaded manner. These things are very serious. But when it comes to this act, right? This act, inherent in the act is an element of levity and lightheadedness. Aside from the fact of the physical aspects of it, right? So even the psychological aspects of it, right? That itself is somewhat contradictory to the essence of what Kadosh Baruch Hu expects from us. Obviously, Kadosh Baruch Hu expects from us to do things in a holy and sanctified manner. That's what we're supposed to do. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, it has to be done in an atmosphere of levity and lightheadedness, which itself is somewhat of a contradiction.
Rebbe, all the other examples you gave is when someone's saying Shema, they're saying Shema by themselves, for themselves. But when you're supposed to be intimate with your wife, it's not just you. You have a partner. So
Right.
you have to, you have to relate to the partner. It's not like like fishes putting the eggs in the water. It's a human. It's the most human relationship.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly. But why does it have to be done with skok? Why does it have to be done with levity and jesting?
Well, maybe we're having trouble with the definition of schok. Instead of levity, can it be I don't know, simcha or something on that order? What I mean, when I guess
Well,
I think everybody here.
Let's go back to Yitzchak and Rivka, right? That's in Perek Chavav and Bereshis, right? You don't take out your chumashim, right? If you have a targum there in the Rashi, that might be also very good, right? That's in Perek in Bereshis, right? Bereshis Perek Chavav. That's chapter 26, and it's in Pasuk. Pasuk Ches. chapter 26, verse 8, right there in the Holy Bible. Right.
So it says
Right.
Yitzchak me tzachek es Rivka ishto.
Right.
I'm just looking to see if there's a Rashi on it.
Misachek, doesn't that mean to play? Misachim, like when you play cards. Misachim, whatever the word for cards is.
Well, okay. Well, hold on. We'll get
All Rashi says is that he became lax.
where are you in Rashi?
Rashi says ki archu. His days were lengthened. Amar Yitzhak said, Me'ata, from now on, Ein li lidog, I don't have to worry. Me'achar shelo anasuha, since they did not take her forcibly. Ad achshav, until now, lo nishar, so he wasn't careful. Lios nishmar, to be cautious.
Right, because up until now, right, there was the charade that Rivka was
His
her
sister.
right? Was a
Right.
sister. So now he let his guard down and he realized, okay, he felt that they had passed the initial period and now no one's interested in him anymore. And so now he could relax. But he didn't know that Abimelech was on the hunt for her, right? Abimelech was very interested in her, and he was looking through the window, right? And Rashi says he saw them actually having, right, raw mishamesh mitaso. He saw them mishamesh mitaso. Right?
Well,
Now-
interesting. There's a comment here. There's a comment here in my art scroll quoting Bereshis Rabbah. It says, the commentators are puzzled as to how Rashi derives this from the words Vayas Kef Avimelech, as the heading of his comment indicates. Apparently, had this comment under the heading of Vayar v'hinei Yitzchak mitzachek, and he saw, behold, Yitzchak was jesting with his wife. In truth, according to the Zohar, Yitzchak conducted himself modestly with Rivka. Avimelech did not see them in a physical sense. He understood through some astrological means that they were having relations, according to Maskil LeDavid.
Right, that's not the
That's not pshat. That's not what most people say, right?
Rashi's saying shot. I mean, you could leave the Zohar alone, but Rashi's saying shot. And again, our main question is, and if you have a Targum over there, the Targum says that V'ha Yitzchak mechayich im Rivka itse, and Yitzchak was jesting, he was humoring with Rivka, his wife. So that's what the morale is trying to teach us. trying to teach us that the essence even in the best situation of say Rivka and Yitzchak, it's still a situation of Kalas Ros and Schok.
Excuse me, question. How could Paro see that we're having relations? Aren't there rules when a husband and wife have relations, it has to be private and the window shade should be closed? That's what I was taught.
Yeah, that 100% correct. That's why the Zohar prefers to say the pshat that he saw through the zodiac and the constellations.
Okay.
But that's not pasuk pshat in the pasuk. That how because how it was they were again you have to realize that don't think that their windows were the same windows as we have, right? Windows we have with storm windows, shutters, curtains, and all that stuff, screens, double glass. And they didn't have those things. A window in those days was basically a hole through the wall, a place where air and light could come in, right? So and how he could see, so that obviously it was hashkacha, right? I mean, the hashkacha was that Avimelech was supposed to realize that she was in fact not a sister; she was in fact a wife, right? So how Avimelech supposed to realize that, right? He didn't have two dots of hoots in those days where you could see who your immediate relatives were, right, Barry?
Here, yeah.
So how was Avimelech supposed to come to an understanding of the exact relationship between Yitzhak and Rivka? So okay, the Zohar said he saw through constellations and zodiacs. Okay, that's one way of understanding things. But the Torah is saying that Avimelech, first of all, he was the king, and second of all, he was very interested in Rivka, right? He was very interested in Rivka, and he wanted to verify exactly their situation. When he was peeping into that window where Yitzhak and Rivka were living, he expected them to be living like brother and sister, correct?
Right.
Avimelech did nothing wrong. What did he do wrong? He was just trying to investigate the nature of their relationship, and he was expecting them, according to what Yitzhak had told him, they're brother and sister. So he was expecting to be playing checkers, or Yitzhak sitting and learning Gemara, and Rivka spinning the wool, right? The last thing he expected to see was them to have relationships with each other. That was a big surprise for him. Didn't expect that. So, but getting back to our point, I'll have to stop here. We'll continue this tomorrow. The Torah itself uses that expression for what Yitzhak and Rivka were doing, and it was obviously with the highest degree of sanctity and kedusha, and then Ava and Reus and Ditza Chedva between themselves. They were doing that, and nevertheless, the Torah still uses that expression of schok, that they were jesting, they were being playful with one another. And that's what the Maharal is trying to prove. He's trying to prove that that's in essence the basis of the whole physical act. The whole basis of the physical act is based upon that. So, okay, we'll continue more. You understand yourselves the questions involved. So hopefully we can start to try and get some answers tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem, we'll try. And we'll take a short break and start the Mishnah Berurah here in a few minutes. We'll be continuing with Birkus Kohanim and the Shir Mishnah Berurah. Okay, Roy, you should have a good afternoon, and hope to see everyone soon again.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Okay.